considering and thinking is also, you can call it meditation or whatever you want.
We call it like that, yeah. You can say it in a very large way. It doesn't mean just sitting and trying to know.
Yeah.
As soon as we are trying, there's a self that wants to.
That's right.
So already all pass.
John's picture is up. So I think John is, John, are you with us now?
He will tell us.
Here now.
Yes. So, Eka, Jan. Hello, Nina, everyone.
Hello. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Alan, Jyotika, Betty,
Hello.
Gabby.
Hello, Sarah.
Ajahn, can I say something?
Please.
We were talking about nimitta because I'm for a Dutch group. I have to introduce, and it is really the first time that we speak about nimitta, and it never was a subject before. Now it's not so easy because people will wondering: is it a reality, or is it the dream world and not a reality? So we can never hear enough about nimitta. I understand there is nimitta of each of the 5 khandhas. So that means it's not imagination. It means it's about reality.
Yes, but when we understand the reality of our reality, for example, that which now experiences, there is seeing right now. But what about moment before seeing? It's not seeing, but there must be that which experiences for sure. As soon as there's birth, there must be moment of experiencing an object. From moment to moment, just one moment at a time, right? So how can anyone directly experience just one moment as it's arising and falling away? Even right now, it seems like there is seeing many, many moments, uncountable. It doesn't seem that it has gone at all, even just one. So what appears is the nimitta, the succession of the rapidity of a reality which arises and falls away. And that can be known now is only moment of seeing. But there must be moment before seeing and moment after seeing for sure. For example, hearing is not seeing, but it seems like that is still seeing all the time, even at moment of hearing, of thinking. So at moment of hearing, there cannot be moment of seeing together at that very moment. So there must not be a reality which sees at moment of hearing. But why it seems like there is seeing all the time? Because of the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away. So from this point, we can imagine how fast it is. Because even it's not just the seeing a moment ago, and it's not the seeing just that a moment ago, but it's new one all the time, but it looks the same. So that is the nimitta. It appears as seeing, as just one seeing, but actually there are many moments of seeing all the time, even right now, unknown. That's why what appears is only the image of a reality which sees. So whatever is there is only the image of that which has conditioned to arise from moment to moment, not just one only moment at all. And this is what is meant by nimitta, the image, the sign, or what appears as a reality, even seeing or hearing. Not only one process, not only one moment of citta, because among all other moments of experiencing, Buddha taught about just one moment of seeing. The other moment cannot see. But how about seeing right now? It seems like so many moments of seeing. It means that at moment of hearing and thinking, it's not moment of seeing, but the succession of the repetitive seems that it's there all the time. So what appears is the nimitta of whatever is there. Is it just like this? This moment of seeing is not just moment of seeing a moment ago. And this, even seeing right now, is not just a moment ago, but it appears as seeing, a nimitta of that which sees. Before it can come together to form up the idea of something, people and things cannot be just one dot, a moment of experiencing, but many, many moments of the repetition of that which appears as it is. But actually, it's broken up. When Panya is there, it can understand the truth, that it cannot be taken for anything, because what is seen is only that which can impinge on the eye base. That's why what is at the back cannot be seen. Only that which is there, impinging on the eye base. So whatever be taken for things around and people around, there must be how many moments of impinging and then experiencing, seeing, and other citta in between and before that, unknown. That's why what appears is only that can be seen, like that which is that which impinges on the eye base, is not that which sees. Beginning to understand what we take for the whole big world or eye or thing, broken up into just a very tiny, very subtle object at a time. The way it is, just like magician, see, it's not like it is, but it looks like something different from the way it is, unknown. How come? So how come to have the idea of people and things from that which is seen, from that which is heard, the story and so on? A moment cannot be any situation, but so many, many moments can condition the idea and memory about that as something permanent situation, and the idea of I or things from life to life until right understanding begins to develop from hearing about the word of truth, about that which is now appearing. Just close one's eyes. What about that which appears as many things, gone completely? How come? Just close one's eyes. So what is the truth? Only that which impinge on the eyeball so very rapidly, from moment to moment, condition such idea of things. Only that. From life to life, unknown. What is there from moment to moment? Never more, never again. Just only at moment when it appears and then gone, unknowingly all the time. This is the beginning to understand what is meant by nimitta, sign of that which is arising and falling away all the time. Just like the shadow, see, it's not as the object it is, the bird, but the shadow, see, not just like a bird as we take it for the details, one by one. So what is there in a moment? So many things unknown. Until Buddha pointed out what is what, here and now, anything, anytime, anywhere. Begin to understand what we take for permanent thing as the truth is that it's not there anymore when it just appears and then disappears, never to arise again. What about a picture? Is it just a reality, it's seen or something. And something is nimitta. And it cannot be nimitta without many dots, each one arising and falling away. What appears is not just only one at all. Only the succession covers up the truth that it's only the shadow of that which arises and falls away. It's not there anymore. And this is life. It is the truth of life, of this very moment. Each moment is gone forever. Just look at the mirror. What is there? See? I or what? Or that which appears as shape and form, as nimitta, to take it for me or I in the mirror.
Achan, can we say that if there were if there were no nimitta, we wouldn't be able to make sense of anything? What's seen, what's heard, what's tasted, anything.
That which does not arise does not have nimitta, right?
Right.
Only that which arises and falls away instantly can condition the nimitta. As long as it's there appearing from different ones all the time. So when we use the term nimitta, what do we mean? That which is now appearing from the nimitta of our reality into nimitta of the whole as shape and form, as thing, one by one, many things. It has to be at each moment of experiencing an object, but the falling away of that particular object cannot be known because it is succeeded by the next one instantly, so very rapidly, not just one, uncountable. That's why when it's not broken up yet, how can there be the understanding that that which is there is not there anymore?
Ajahn, about nimitta of shape and form, I don't quite understand yet, because I thought of nimitta of a reality.
Yes. Do you see a rose?
Yes,
It's seen.
I can see that.
So how can there be a rose? Only just one dot.
Many
Cannot
moments.
be a rose. And can the whole rose impinge on the eye base?
Impossible.
Impossible. So imagine the truth at moment of experiencing that which impinges on it so rapidly, arising and falling away. And because the citta is the main or the chief of experiencing the characteristic of the object as different ones, together as something. We can break up the whole petal of a rose, see, until it cannot be just that which we take for rose anymore. No matter a rose or a grain of whatever is there, so very tiny, can be broken up. Even the sound now is heard. It can be broken up, see, unknown of the rapidity of the succession, because it's taken instantly for the idea of understanding the meaning of it as soon as it's heard, but actually it's impossible, because at moment of hearing sound, it's not the moment of understanding the meaning of it. The sanya is there before there can be the sanya of what is meant. Just that sound, see? Daily life, just right now, what is unknown because no one talk about the truth of it until the Buddha taught us about what is there in a moment. And what is a moment? If there is nothing experiencing anything at all, can there be a moment? Impossible. So when we talk about just a moment, it means the moment of experiencing an object. There must be the reality which arises and experience. Right now, seeing sees, hearing hears. So what is meant by experiencing is it knows what is there as it is. Different sound, different color, condition, different form and shape and idea of different things. So very rapidly, it seems like as soon as one opens one's eye, many things around. How can it be such? It means that how rapidity, the succession of that which arises and fall away instantly, continuously, instantly, so that even just moment of open one's eyes is there. Many things, see? And ignorance is there, not understanding what is there as it is, as that which can be seen. It cannot be anything at all. It's only that a reality which is different from heat and cold and taste and sound, because it can be seen, because of the quality of the rupa, which can that object impinge on, and it condition a reality, experiencing it and then gone. Just see and then gone. See? And before seeing, what are there? And after seeing, what are there? Only nimitta of the reality which experiences different things from moment to moment is taken for eye, attachment instantly to that which appears unknowingly, because of ignorance, not penetrate the truth that is there, just only when it appears. So each word should be studied carefully. It's there only when it appears, true or not. But even so, while it appears, there are so many moments arising and falling away, which can be directly known when there's more understanding. It can appear to only understanding, because now hardness is there. It is known, it is experienced, it's hard. No understanding of the truth. How come? And what is that which experiences? And that which cannot experience, but it's there as hard. Hardness is there. See, only that. Is it not true? Only that. Is there anyone? Only that which experiences hardness. And hardness cannot be arms or legs or anything. It's only hardness. The truth is the truth. And the nimitta follows the succession of the arising and falling away with ignorance, taking it for something as soon as it's there. How fast it is. The way it is. From life to life, from moment to moment, until this moment of considering the truth. What is true? Is there anyone or it's only that which arises and experience. Through eyes it sees, through ears it hears, through nose it smells, and so on, and then gone from moment to moment, from life to life. No more than what appears in life as it is from life to life. And nothing can last at all. It's gone. Yesterday is yesterday. Just a moment ago. It's just a moment ago. It cannot be now. And the future, the next moment is there. By conditions, no one can stop. It's arising. It's there already, each moment, by conditions. Keep on rolling on, going on so very rapidly, unknowingly, from life to life. So it's time to listen to the truth of whatever is there, whether it's true or not. That which experiences, can anyone stop it to arise to experience? Impossible. When there is life, different from the moment of experiencing, just experience the characteristic of that object. But at moment of experiencing, there can be other reality arising together, sharing the same object but different characteristic, different function, like or dislike. It's not the chief of experiencing that object. That's why they go together. They condition each other to arise and perform its own function from moment to moment and then gone, never to arise again. In samsara, just once in samsara. And it's now, see, it can be proven, it can be understood. And it's the way to develop understanding of the truth. Less attachment to that which has been no more. After it's gone, never to arise again. So we take whatever in this life as me or mine. Just be this person only in this life, never more. Actually, they are different realities taken for me or my life until no more. So now it's the world of nimitta, see, flower, see, with different shapes and forms and color. It conditions the idea of rose or jasmine or whatever is there as different ones.
Nina, if I may add a word. So when we're talking about the nimitta of reality, for example, the seeing consciousness has fallen away, but when there is understanding of the reality, it's the nimitta of that reality which appears. So that is clear. And after the visible object is experienced in the idol process, it's experienced in the following mind or process, it must be the nimitta of the reality. So whenever it is the development of Satipatthana, direct understanding, it's always the nimitta of the reality itself, which appears. But now, after experiencing of the reality, for example, the visible object, there is the idea of shape and form. So it's the nimitta of shape and form. And then the idea, the impression of something there, a flower there, jasmine there. So this is the nimitta of something, a flower, a vase, a person that is there. So this is the nimitta of something that is there. But when there is the understanding more and more of reality, whenever it is the understanding of reality directly, it's the nimitta of the reality itself. But even now, when talking about visible object or sound, it's the nimitta of the impression, the idea of visible object, because it's not the reality itself. So this is what is meant by living in the world of nimitta. Because of the arising and falling away of realities, there is the impression of shapes and forms and flowers and people. So it's actually nimitta at each moment of reality and then of shape, of something all the time.
Yes.
Sarah,
Do we actually
May I just ask, oh, sorry, Nina, were you going to say something?
can we really see shape and form without thinking about it yet? Not yet taking it for something, but still seeing the shape and form, but it has to be many moments, not just one moment, I think.
Many moments, but if there is no impression after seeing visible object, if there's no impression of shape and form or color, there couldn't be any thinking or idea of rose or person. So different moments of thinking about shape, form, color, something there, countless mental processes after seeing.
Yes, 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 that's clear. Yeah.
Hi, Maeve.
Hello, it's Sarah and everybody, Ajahn. We sometimes read that an example of nimitta is like the trail of light that's left from a fire stick, or the after image of a candle flame. And we can look at those that visual impression, but we know that the after image of the candle flame is actually not the candle flame. I mean, this is just at a conventional level. So it seems as if it's like that's just a progression towards understanding that. So we know that the after image is not real, but we still think that what it's an after image of is real, when in actual fact it is not. It's, as Ajahn has just been describing, a whole succession of realities that rise and fall away. I suppose my question is around, it almost seems like it's not that difficult to see how, if we accept the non-reality of one experience, that we are unable to take that further.
And like you said, it's the after image is like the shadow of the bird is not the bird, but it's close to the bird. And the more understanding develops, the closer and closer it gets to the reality, so that it is the sign of the reality itself that is known. But as you said, as there is more and more thinking, the shadow is taken for something, and there is a story about it, of the bird and the tree and so on. And the thinking gets further and further away from the understanding of the reality itself. But it's all nimitta, the shadow of what was actually seen, the shadow of the impression of the shape and form, the shadow of the idea of something there, a bird there. It's all the world of nimitta. And like you say, it's the same through any doorway. So when there is the understanding that what is seen, the reality has fallen away, it's like that for any reality. It's always the nimitta of what appears that can be known.
So that thinking about, I mean, we tend to talk about isolated objects like the nimitta of the rose, etc., etc., the seeing of the visual object, and then that sort of translated into shape and form, etc. So I can see that there is value in
almost having that idea of the world of nimitta as being like a backdrop to everything. That instead of thinking that it's just something that is there, I don't know, occasionally or something like that, but that it's the totality of everything that is being experienced through the sense and the mind organ.
And if there was not reality itself, if there was not any seeing or any visible object, none of that world, none of the fantasy world of nimitta would be there. So it all comes back to the reality at this moment, the seeing the visible object. So it's the dream world, just like when we're asleep at night, but actually this is the dream world now, living in the world of nimitta, shapes and forms and impressions and ideas of roses and people all day long.
Or sometimes maybe we hear the analogy of a veil. It almost seems like nimitta is a veil between direct experience and the object.
I appreciated what Dhamma said earlier on, Maeve, about a dot or a spot, a dot, the sort of multiplicity of dots that enable us to build up a profile of that Dhamma. But initially it's, in English we can use that word a pixel, if you like, or an accumulation that allows us to have this idea of something, whatever it is, whatever that concept is, whether it be sound or what is seen. So I find that helpful rather than, we can have all sorts of different ideas. And but I certainly found that helpful, what Dhamma said. She's used that analogy before, Dhamma, and I find it helpful.
So we begin to understand just one reality at a time, because usually we take the whole as roles, but what are they? That which is seen is different from when it's touched. The hardness is there. So we understand the different worlds, which continues from moment to moment to be something, a world of things. That's why I learn to understand that actually what is taken for an object or thing must be many, many realities arising together to know that actually that cannot be taken for what we take for thing at all, because hardness, how can it be shoes or finger or anything? It is hardness, and without the moment of beginning to understand hardness when it's there, it's impossible to let go the idea of something. That's why to begin to understand the truth is just to understand what is there as just one. Different jittas, different cetasikas, and different rupa can be known one at a time. For example, at moment of touching, we don't have to think about touching because hardness is now appearing. So that which experiences is there, and that which is hard is there. Nothing else, just a moment. But there are so many things which can be known as it is, as not as before, as leg or arms or paper or food or anything at all. This is the way to understand what we heard, that is so real that it can be studied one at a time, and at that moment there must be conditions for the arising of what we say, direct awareness with direct understanding. Because we now understand that seeing is not I. Seeing is that which experiences an object. Seeing sees only that. See, it's not the moment before seeing, it's not the moment after seeing, but that is what we heard. But they do not appear as they are, as just different moments. There is only seeing and no seeing, hearing and no hearing, that's all. That's why what can be known is only that which appears. And at this moment, hardness is now appearing. So it depends on conditions to understand it as much as it is hard. No one and nothing there. But it is the beginning to know that the truth can be understood when there are conditions for directly understanding what we have heard about that as it's only hard. See, it let go the idea of things, hard and soft, cake, fruit, or anything at all. It's that even it's so short, but it's different from moment when there's no awareness of that characteristic at all. So we learn about many words, different ones, the moment of intellectual understanding about that which is appearing, but it's not directly understood as only one at a time because it's not direct awareness of a reality. So how can there be the direct understanding of that which is known as an object? That's why everything conditioned gradually to know the truth, what is what, no I. But it's there, depending on conditions to be moment of understanding it directly with direct awareness. But it can be conditioned when there's more letting go, the idea of taking it for me something. See, it works its way. Understanding now is different from no understanding at all. And when it's more understood, it can condition the attention in a day. We don't know. There can be moment of just sudden thinking about that is hard, only thinking, but it's there, hardness is there. But there is thinking about it, not directly understanding it yet, but it is the beginning to have attention to that characteristic that it's there, as what we heard, little by little. It develops with the understanding of no self to know that nobody is there, to try so hard to understand it, because without the understanding right now, it's impossible to condition the moment of in a day. Is there any time thinking about the truth? Even just thinking that, oh, it's there. See, even right now, all depends on conditions. So only understanding from listening and considering can condition any moment of having just attention to the object or being aware of how much understanding is there by conditions. That's why this way is so very subtle, very profound. It's beyond anyone can understand how it is so subtle as just as normal as now, as it is. No hurry, because it's impossible to experience anything without understanding what is there as it is right now. It's there by conditions. So no rules at all how to begin and how to develop. It's one's own accumulation, and each one is so very different. But Panya develops to understand that which has been accumulated, so it's there. Otherwise, it cannot be there at all. But what is there is from accumulation, from life to life, of different Sankhara Dhamma, Cetasikas. So just hearing more, considering more about the truth that is there now. And it can be object of understanding clearer and clearer, little by little, by conditions only.
Ajahn, may I ask a question about memory?
Please.
Because it seems that memory is one of the great obstacles to grasping the idea of non-self, because memory seems to provide continuity. When we think about our lives, there's some identifiable continuity, even though we are changing over a lifetime, it seems that there is some, even maybe at just a psychological level, there is something between our younger selves and our older selves, etc. But what I'm actually just considering as we talk about nimitta is that I suppose memory is really just what we think of memories is really just a whole series of nimitta, and that we are remembering the nimitta of experiences which we take for, you know, the younger self, the older self, etc., etc. Is that right? Is that what constitutes memory? Largely nimitta?
Each reality is so very subtle, see? And what is memory? It remembers, like what is citta? It experiences. What is lopa? It is attached as glue. Whatever is there, it's attached instantly. Each one has its own characteristic. Just learn to understand different realities, different function. For example, there is memory right now, but no thought about it at all until beginning to understand it. What is there? It's just memory which remembers what is there, wrongly or rightly. For example, when it is something like a rose, right or wrong, because actually what is seen cannot be anything, cannot be a rose, but remember the moment when it's there as shape and form as something. So one learns to understand what is there in life from moment to moment. There is remembrance or memory, each moment unknown. So we just take it for I remember or I don't remember. But actually, any moment of experiencing, there must be a reality which marks and remembers the object instantly. Otherwise, how can there be memory or remembrance in the day of any object? It's there, but what is not there is the understanding of the truth that it cannot be anyone, but it is a reality, has its own characteristic, just to remember when it's there. That's why it's so important that Buddha taught it as one khanda. Vedana Kanda, very important too, because one craves for pleasant feeling in all one's life. And when there's, because of memory or sanya, it marks and remember what is the pleasant object, what is not the unpleasant object. So it goes on with such and such conditions, craving for that which is remembered as so very pleasant, and it's so I, but actually it's wrong memory. That's why one has to understand what is right and what is wrong. Because memory just remembers what is there. When there is no understanding, how can it be right memory about that which is there? It has to be wrong. Because no understanding of that object. Whatever appears is not self, but not understanding that it is a reality. Remember, mark it and remember it for a reality or a thing. No, we don't need to use the word reality because no understanding of the truth as it's only a reality, but it is a thing, see? And that is sanya vipalasa, atta sanya, nitya sanya, see, sukha sanya, all day about that which appears. That's why it's a very important factor for life. That's why Buddha pointed out about the five khandas. What are they? Vedana khanda, sanya khanda, and other cetasikas as sankhara khanda, and then vinyana khanda. The four nama khandas are there together because the citta cannot remember. It just experience. It has its function just to experience the object, the characteristic which is different from the others, just one by one, to know the difference. And sanya marks and remembers the difference. It's there all the time, performing its function to mark and remember the object. And it's not known, so it is I remember. Naturally, even we don't use the word I. Remember at that moment, just remembers, but without understanding that it's there by conditions. And it just arises and falls away together with citta and marks and remember only a reality at a time. So it's not permanent. And when there's no understanding, it's wrong memory about that which it marks as something. That's why learning to understand each word of the Buddha, for example, nimitta of whatever is there, because only one moment cannot be known at all, according to the process of citta, which Buddha just pointed out in details about how many cittas and how many cetasikas and so on, at moment of experiencing only one object at a time. And sanya is there all the time, unknown, all the time. It's me now, I think. It's me now, I see. It's me now, I hear. It's me now, I like. See, always remember and marks that wrongly as it's me, but actually it's not there anymore. That's why as long as sanya is not the object of direct understanding, yet it's impossible to eliminate the idea of self, impossible to eradicate the wrong sanya, which takes everything for me or things. That's why learning to understand sanya, because in a day, no thought about it at all, no matter one tastes what, hears what, think about what. Sanya is there all the time, unknown. So it should be known as it's that moment of marks and remembers the object as it is, not me, because there are many things as me or mine all day in one's life, this and that all the time, including sanya, see. That's why if no one pointed out what sanya is and it's there anytime, it's impossible to know sanya, to see that it is not anyone at all. It marks and remembers depending on other cetasikas as well, because no one can control to have it arise or not having it arise of such and such thought or object at all. And it's now here, see, at moment of seeing, it marks that which is seen. At moment of hearing, it marks sound as different sound to be understood, as different meaning or different language. See, it's there all the time in one's life. If it's not known, it has to be I or belong to me all the time. That's why Buddha taught about the truth of each reality to be known as no one and no self and no thing at all. And sanya is real because it's there, but it's wrong. It's I remember. Actually, sanya remembers, not I remember at all. That's why beginning to attend to the characteristic which marks and remembers until it can become the object of understanding of when it's there. Even right now, see it's there, but what is known is the object, no attention to sanya or any other reality at all. It has to be heard little by little until it can be object of understanding. Otherwise, I is there, remembers, and it's not the moment of letting go, wrong understanding. That's why it's not only one lifetime to understand what one has heard about the truth, but it's the beginning to implant the truth. No one there, what is there, is just as it is. If it's not taught, who could think about sanya, marks and remember, whatever is there? As soon as it does not appear as anything yet, but only when it's there, sanya marks already, to be known as what is there later. This is life, and sanya is our reality, not self, not me,
And sanya just marks, as Ajahn says, what is there. So sanya does not mismark. It always marks correctly. But the reason why there is the view or the idea of continuity is because of, I think the texts say, lack of understanding, rise and fall of Dhammas. And so there is not sufficient understanding of the reality of the present moment for the lack of continuity to become apparent. So sanya just does its job and is not to blame for, as it were, for the idea of continuity. That's more down to the wrong idea, the misperception we have of the world around us.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and that misperception, and sorry, Maeve, is what's known as sanya. As you know, you've heard this word many times, and Ajahn often refers to it as vipallasa. This is this very distorted idea. Because there's no panya, there is this vipallasa, or a very wrong or perverse, it's translated in all sorts of ways, literally means that which is not so, idea of what is going on.
And whenever there is any lobha, dosa, or moha at those moments, it is a perversion of sanya. It is a akusala sanya that is arising, marking with the akusala citta at those moments. I just want to briefly introduce one new friend who is here, Tam Chow, who is a friend of Leanne's, I think. Tam, this is your first time, so very glad that you've joined us. I think you're in Australia also, is that right?
That's right. Hello, everyone. My name is Tam Chow. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Very glad to meet you. You've been listening for the last hour, and there have been quite a lot of Pali terms and quite a lot of very deep topics. I don't know if you are familiar with any of the Pali terms, or whether there's anything you would like explained simply, or whether you have any questions or topics of your own you would like to raise.
I learned a little bit about Pali, so I'm familiar with those terms just mentioned about. Yeah, so I can understand those Pali terms, but the topic is very deep, so I think it will take me a long time to understand. Yeah, everything is very new to me. Yeah, but I'm very keen to learn, and yeah, so. Yeah.
And usually in Melbourne, do you have a discussion group, or how do you discuss or study Dhamma usually?
And in Melbourne, we're in lockdown at the moment, so there's no Dhamma group, and there's not even before and after lockdown, there's no Dhamma group of this particular style or tradition. So I used to follow another group in Malaysia. It is called Wise Foundation. Yeah, and that is they follow another tradition in Burmese, in Burma. Yeah, but very, very similar teaching. Yeah, so I can understand a little bit of what you mentioned about everything is nature. Yeah, and as Ajahn said that at the present moment there's a lot of happening. Learn more about sanya, and it is actually the characteristic is just to mark and to remember. Yeah, so I actually I've learned and explore. I'm familiar with that. I mean, like, it's not that I can say it, experience it, myself, but like I understand a little bit about it. Yes.
And usually often when people talk about the present moment and they talk about, like you mentioned, happenings or nature or being here now, but the Buddha taught about what exactly the present moment is or what the present nature is. So he talked about two kinds of realities, those realities that experience an object like seeing and hearing and thinking, and those realities that don't experience anything, such as the visible object that we mentioned and the sound or the hardness that is touched. The point being that in truth, there is no I that experiences, no I that has sanya, no I that sees, no I that can do anything. So that's why we consider and discuss and study in more detail about what the actual truth of life at this moment is, what the different realities are, in order to really begin to consider what this self is that we're used to thinking of as being in control of life.
Yes. And I have a question about this sense of self. Is it a mental factor? Is it like something that a reality that just appear and then another reality attached to it? Is it something like that? Because this sense of self is apparently appears a lot in my space, and so is it a mental factor that when it is a reason, we have no choice but just to be attached to it, or the more we practice, the more we can understand about it, and then we can detach from it, or how does it work, this sense of self?
So at the moment of seeing, like seeing now, is there any sense of self at a moment of seeing? Is seeing self?
And there's no sense of self in the seeing, but there is a sense of self in the knowing what I'm seeing.
Right. So at the moment of seeing, it's just seeing, no sense of self. At the moment of hearing, just hearing, no sense of health. Smelling, tasting, touching, just smelling, tasting, touching, just the reality that experiences. But after seeing, this thinking, like we said, thinking about shapes, colors, forms, roses, something. So at these moments, we can refer to it as a sense of self, like when there's the idea of a rose existing or the idea of different people on the computer screen. It is the sense of someone there, the sense of something there, because there is the sense of self here. So it's not at the moment of seeing or hearing, but it's just at moments of thinking, thinking about what has been seen, thinking about what has been heard, taking that impression, that nimitta, that shape and form for being something because of the thinking. So when there is more understanding of realities, then there is more understanding that it's just a fantasy, just an idea, this sense of self, because in truth, what is seen is just that which is visible. What is heard is just sound. So it's just an imagination, just that which is thought about, like in a dream world at nighttime. Now there is the dream world about sense of self, sense of other people, sense of things and roses and flowers all around one. So if there's no thinking of sense of self, where is it? Is there any sense of self?
In my space, there is more like the sense of self doesn't appear at the sense door, because apparently like the seeing is just seeing, but I find that the sense of self appear more in the knowing, when I feel like I know something, or in the perception in sanya, because when I remember, it's just the sense of, I remember, it's my memory. So the sense of self appears more in the consciousness, or appears more in the sanya, or appears more in the feelings, Vedana. I feel this way, I feel that way.
So this is why we learn more about the realities of sanya, which Ajahn was talking about. So as she mentioned, sanya arises with every single citta in life. At the moment of seeing, sanya marks and remembers the object. At a moment of hearing, at a moment of thinking. It seems that it's my memory or I remember, but actually sanya is a mental factor that just arises with each citta. I think you know the word citta, with each moment of consciousness, and falls away. It's not I see or I who remembers. And the same with Vedana, the feeling, which is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. At each moment of life, there is Vedana. At a moment of seeing, there's a neutral feeling. At a moment of attachment, usually there's a moment of pleasant feeling. It's just a Vedana which arises with the citta and falls away. It's not my feeling or my sense of self that feels. It's just a reality. So this is why we come back to this moment to understand seeing now, visible object now, sanya now, Vedana now, to understand that in truth, no one who knows anything, no one who sees anything, no one who remembers, no one who feels pleasant or unpleasant, just different cittas, cetasikas, the mental factors, and rupas, those realities that don't experience anything, arising and falling away, and the deep-seated idea that it's all my experience, or I control anything, or I remember, or I feel, is a fantasy. But without
Ajahn,
really studying this moment, impossible to know about the realities right now.
Ajahn Cup, what would your response be to this idea that somebody has the sense of self? How would you reply to that kind of question?
No understanding of what is there as it is, right?
Cup.
There must be the self. See, I deceive. See, deceive what? What deceive? See, it's the unknown, but it's the I. Down at the bottom, underline. So, for example, while one is fast asleep, no like or dislike appearing at all. But as soon as just wakes up, what is there? Very shortly at that moment. No matter it is what is seen, what is thought about, through what doorway, but what is there as clinging, right? There cannot be a moment of thinking about the object, but it's there experiencing. So we cannot count how many moments of sense are and how many moments of mind are, because ignorance is there. It cannot be known. But to understand the truth, just tomorrow after wake up, what is there? It depends on conditions, whether it is moment of wanting to do something, while before that there can be many processes of experiencing an object unknown. Only that when one there cling to something, just want to do, just want to get up. But before that, just a single process after falling asleep, after sleeping, say, what is there? It's there something unknown, and there is clinging and ignorance of that object. So it's impossible just to find out when it's not clear, when it's not the object, and try so hard to have it. It's gone. So all depends on conditions. We are talking about the truth so that it can condition moment of experiencing the object with understanding of what object Nobody can tell at all. It's there by conditions. That's why understanding is there. And it's there, and it can condition the other moment of understanding later. We don't know when, but it's there enough to be conditioned for right understanding of whatever it is, instead of trying to pinpoint, to try to point out what is the object of attachment right then. Can it be just the bhava, the being, or the day? We don't know at all because it's so very short and gone instantly. That's why it's wasting time to understand or try to know what is there. But what about now? It's time to listen to the truth of what is there as it is. What is seen is only that which can impinge on the eye base and then gone. It's the way to let go the idea of clinging to that which appears as something as before, little by little, to know that it's only memory, sanya, marks and remember wrongly about that which is not there, because that which is there cannot be a rose, cannot be anything, but it's that which can be seen, and thinking about how short it is of that process, that it is seen because it impinges on the eye base. That's all. That's all. That's all. And the moments follow so many ideas about it. But the moment when it's there, it cannot be taken for anything because it's only the reality, the characteristic which can impinge on the eye base and appear only that. Only that means no rules, no thing at all. So very little, so very tiny, so very subtle. And is this not true? When it's more and more and more, it can condition shape and form and the idea. That's why what can be known little by little from the very beginning with the understanding of no self, because it can be anything by conditions. Have confidence of the truth of anatta, no one at all, because all sankhara dhamma now are performing the function, and it depends on such very moment what would it be and how much understanding is there. But it has to come from this moment, understanding that actually there's no one and no thing. It's moment of experiencing an object with many cetasika, sanya, marks and remembers, and take it for something. And now it listens to the truth, and it begins to mark and remember what is right and what is wrong, and what about that which can be seen as it is, little by little, and what is heard, little by little, and what is now heard, little by little, until it can condition a moment of stronger understanding and clear understanding of the object which appears. By conditions, this is the only way to have more confidence of the truth of no self. No expectation, just understand now what about, what is there now, little by little.
So, Tanajan, what would you say to somebody who says that still there always seems to be somebody?
Yes, but what is some and what is body?
It's an idea, Tanajan.
See, so what is idea?
Thinking cup.
Yet see, this is life. Just experience an object and then think about that, right or wrong, depending on conditions. Usually it's wrong, and no one knows that it's wrong. But one always takes what is there as permanent. It's still there. I remember that. I experienced it. But where is that? Never be found again at all. No matter how much one tries so hard. See? To learn about the truth, the absolute truth. Whether there is I or no I, and what is that which is taken for I. If there is no understanding of that which is taken for I, there must be wrong understanding. Still take that for I all the time, until there is more understanding of that as not I. This is the way to wear away the idea of self from that which is there, no matter when, by conditions. It can be tomorrow, it can be in the evening, it can be before going to bed or something, depending on conditions. And this is the only way to have more confidence of the truth of no one and nothing, anatta.
So it's a very, very gradual process, Tanajan.
And understanding this, understanding the subtlety of reality.
Mm. Mm.
Otherwise, the path is not subtle at all, if anyone can do. But it's not like that at all. It is understanding of this moment, stage by stage, intellectual understanding, and have condition for just thinking about the truth of life more and more, a little more. What is life? It's just moment, arising and falling away. Is that not true? And it's the object that one clings so much to have such and such experience. What for? Because it's that just very short and then gone, never to arise again. Hearing more, considering more, it can condition moment, beginning to see the danger, to be boresome of that which just is there by conditions, non-stop, no end.
Tanajan, when you see seeing the danger, what do you mean by that, seeing the danger?
Is it not dangerous to see that what is there is not permanent, but there is clinging to that, to nothing, clinging to nothing all the time? Never be wise enough to know the truth. Is that not dangerous? To harm
Yeah, I
oneself,
can.
to cling to it, to crave for it, not enough, never enough, from life to life, even at moment of before death. To condition next life on and on and on, which means each moment, non-stop. Is it not dangerous? What for? Like the fire. What is the use of the fire here and there, no one there at all? Just
I think
around
it's hard to.
this way, no use. What for? No one.
I think it's hard to see that danger, Tanajan, sometimes.
Very, very hard until right understanding is there enough, little by little, to say, to see. What for? Just to live again and again. Wake up and then sleep, and then wake up and experience, and then sleep, all whole life. No matter what life, just that non-stop. And what is experienced cannot belong to anyone because it's gone completely, absolutely, never to arise again at all. So ignorance just is there, cling to it, crave for it. For what? To experience what? Just the object of what is there as object and then gone. No one at all, even the moment of experiencing is gone. Everything is gone forever. So what's the use? Beginning to be tired of what is there as not self, keep on arising and falling away. Eat again, go to sleep again, eat again. The stream, the flux of whatever is go on by conditions, interrupted by experiencing what is there and then gone. All gone. All the time. Non-stop. Impossible to stop. Because that's the way it is. Until right understanding is there, becoming seeing the useless of the experiencing, no matter experience is what, pleasant or unpleasant object, it's exactly the same. Just for craving, more clinging.
So intellectually, Tanajan, I can understand what you're saying. However, it seems so difficult to follow through with that level of intellectual understanding.
That's why it's not anyone who can force any condition, but from moment of understanding, from moment to moment, it can condition moment of understanding more and clear to understand the truth. So Panya is so courageous. It's brave enough to understand the truth of actually there is nothing at all, only conditioned realities, different ones by different conditions. Sanya is sanya, lopa is lopa, dosa is dosa, and in all gone, only there by conditions.
Yeah, I
And this
appreciate
is
Tanajan.
not easy to get
Sorry.
it, but from learning more and more in one's life and understanding one's own accumulation to see that it has to be like this. When attachment is there, it means that no self, it's conditioned by the accumulation of attachment of different objects, so it can condition that moment no matter how strong it is, but it's gone, never to arise again. No one there. So what's the use of having such moments? Even it's so pleasant, it's only at moment when an object is experienced. If that object is not experienced, how can it condition pleasant feeling towards that object? See? So even pleasant feeling is there only at moment of experiencing an object. Only that object, only one object, and that object, and then gone. See?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
appreciate Sorry,
depends
keep going.
on understanding of no self and no thing. That's why the wrong understanding has to be eradicated before other thing else. Because it condition more and more akusla because of the clinging to the self. That's why
Yeah,
one can understand what is there is not by oneself, but it's by conditions accumulated. Even moving one's hand, even this way of liking or disliking by conditions, and then gone. So what's the use of repeating again and again, and then no more, all gone?
So I appreciate what you say, Tanajan, that Panya needs to be courageous. I really appreciate that phrase.
Otherwise, I cannot be letting go at all. And without understanding, there can be such strong understanding of no self. So face it, understanding it because it's there by conditions.
So Tanajan, you'll be talking there, what you seem to be talking about there is Hira Sanya, this strong, committed Sanya to understand the nature of the present reality.
For sure, because otherwise there cannot be conditioned to understand the unnothingness even of this very moment. Any moment is there. The unnothingness of whatever is conditioned to be there, to arise and be there only when it appears. But one always forgets, thinking that it's there all the time. But even pleasant feeling is at moment when it experiences only that very object and then gone. See, of dislike and pleasant feeling is only the moment when it experiences only that very object and then gone. Everything is just like that. Where's the I? Where's the permanent I? Where's the permanent thing? If it's not panya enough to experience that, it cannot let go the idea of self. Because from a moment of listening to the truth, what is there is conditioned, not in anyone's control at all. And by conditions and daily life, condition the understanding of what is there is by one's own accumulation, moving one's hand this way or that way, like this or that way, by conditions. It's there by conditions. Understanding that no one can force it, no one can change it, because it's there by conditions, can lead to more understanding of anatta. Even right now, what is seen is anatta. What is heard is anatta. What is there? Is it as no one and nothing? And that's the meaning of anatta. No one and nothing, only the way Dhamma is. That's all Dhammas. See, whatever is there is not anything or anyone, but it's as it is, a Dhamma. And then gone, see, just there in very short moments and then gone. And this is life. So understand the truth of life is understand this very moment. Who conditions its arising? No one is there already by conditions. Like or dislike, no one can control. It's there and then gone. But wrong understanding, not experiencing directly the truth of that which arises and falls away, can condition moment of taking it for something permanent to be object of attachment. So Panya begins to develop little by little about the truth of what is there, as is taught to be considered whether it's right or wrong, what is heard, true or not.
So, Tanajan, when people say in the beginning, I can do this, I can go there, I can sit up, I can move here and there, what do you say to such people, Tanajan?
Okay, can you see?
Well, it seems so, Tanajan.
Can you see?
It seems
And
so,
what's the
Tanajan.
answer?
Yes, usually sometimes people would say, yes, I can see.
What about if suddenly there's no eye sense?
True, Tanajan. No seeing then.
See, so can you see? Is there you who see? Or what is there? Depends on conditions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So unless there is the right conditions, there will not be seeing.
Each conditions cannot be controlled at all. Seeing has to arise when there are conditions for its arising. See? Who can control? Who can change? But when there's no condition, seeing cannot arise. Who can make it arise? Just seeing. And what about other things in life each moment? Just to understand, learn to understand the truth, the absolute truth of what is there. For example, can thinking see?
No, Tanajan.
See, just one reality at a time. Thinking cannot be anything. It can think, it cannot see. It cannot hear, but it can think. So where's the I? If it's not true, speak it why it's not true. But when it's true, who can deny the truth? The truth cannot be changed. It's there all the time, depending on whether there is the understanding of it or there is no understanding of it. Even understanding is not in anyone's control.
No.
And this is the truth. So implant the truth of no self so that when hearing anything, it will lead to more understanding of actually that cannot be taken for anything permanent and no self at all, no thing at all, only our reality, and each one appears as nimitta because of the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away. It can be known now. As soon as one opens one's eyes, so many things, see how come to be so many different things without impinging on the eye base one at a time. So very subtle. Before it can be
So,
anything
Tanajan,
like that, so many things. Yes,
so
Kun-
Tanajan, when you say implant the idea of not self, what do you mean by that?
to understand more. That is so true, never change. No one. See, no one. So if you think that there is someone or one or me, what is that? That you take it for one, for me. What you take it for me? Can
Yes.
anyone do anything?
Well, intellectually, no, Ajahn.
So the truth is the truth. Who can change? This is subject to be true to the truth of no one and no self. All dhammas are anatta. Nothing is left. Whatever is real, whatever is dhamma, must be anatta. Not can be anything or not can be changed from this to that at all. And when it's implanted, it implies to whatever is there when panya develops to understand what is there. Because it is not understanding what is there and thinking about the past and the future, not understanding what is there now. So it's impossible to understand the truth because the truth is now at this very moment.
And that's always easy to forget, Tanajan. I always appreciate the reminder that the truth is now, and it's so easy to forget that.
That's why Buddha taught for 45 years in all aspects about just our reality. No matter it is sati or panya or manasikara or cetana or whatever, because it arises only once and different by conditions, from moment to moment, from Sankhara-Dhamma ingredients for such and such happenings.
So there's always Dhamma, Tanajan.
Yes, and that is implanted to understand that actually there's no me, no one, no thing, only different realities. And what is experienced is different characteristic of different realities. So which one is self? No one at all. No thing at all to be taken for self.
And when the
Visible
Buddha said,
object is visible object, see? Can anyone change? And where is it? Without conditions? Can there be that which can impinge on the eye base and appear as it is, as that which is seen? Only that, see, only that which can be seen, and then gone.
and when we
What
say it's so
covers up?
difficult, it's true, and there's forgetting all the time, but it doesn't matter because there's always Dharma, and no one can make Panya arise. No one can speed it up. It just depends on the understanding of reality now. So no matter slow, fast, difficult or not, it's still just the development of understanding by conditions. No self who can do anything. So it's not discouraging, but the opposite, because it's the beginning of letting go to appreciate it. Otherwise, it can be clinging to oneself, thinking, I forget all the time, or it's so difficult. But it's not like that, because the understanding of realities as conditioned is the letting go and is the beginning of the way out of samsara.
And this is what we say, Khanti Parami, Adidana Parami, Satya Parami, Nekhamma Parami.
They all develop and support the development of panya, all the different paramis. So less thinking of oneself and, oh, it's so difficult for me to understand, or so much forgetting, because it's actually the opposite. It's when it's the development of nekama and kanti, there's no minding about how slow or difficult, because understanding can develop by conditions anytime.
Sarah, a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned the word Dhamma, its own way. Could you explain a bit more about that?
Dhamma, it's a common word in Thai, Dhamma, but it's also the Pali term, Dhamma. It means as it is, it's natural, it has to be that way. So whether there's understanding or not now, it's Dhamma, it has to be like that. It can't be any other way, because all realities are anatta. So Lobha arises now, there's clinging even right at this moment in the middle of the Dhamma discussion, and this is natural. It has to be that way, tamatha. It can't be any other way, because each reality now is conditioned.
So it's just another aspect of anatta that
yes, understanding that it has to be so natural, the development has to be so natural. If there's any trying to speed it up, or trying to follow a practice, or having the idea one should not have any material possessions, as one friend mentioned on the list, this is not tamatha, this is not the natural way, understanding, seeing at this moment, Vedana, Sanya, whatever is conditioned to appear now. Lobha is bound to be there. It doesn't matter at all, because it's just conditioned Dhamma. It's not my Lobha. It's not I who can stop it from arising. So the understanding of realities as not self is the understanding of what is meant by developing naturally Dhamma.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other topics you want to bring up today, Alan, or anyone else who hasn't?
I just remember a sutta about the Dharma is for one who is precise, for one who delights in precision. What would you say that we should understand from that?
Is it correct that seeing now is just seeing? It's, if we just say, well, it's what is happening now, or it's nature now, it's not precise enough. I don't know about the sutta. I think we discussed that before, and I'm not sure the terminology, but anyway, understanding has to understand precisely or exactly what it is that appears now. Hearing is hearing, not I hear. It's not the sound that is heard, exactly as it is, precisely what appears now.
Right.
But Ajahn may add more about this, I think.
Seeing, is that precise?
It depends what we mean by seeing. Seeing is a reality which experiences what is visible. That is more precise than saying we see cup, chair.
What about seeing, is that precise?
Yes, it is just a reality which experiences.
It cannot be other thing at all. So precise to be just seeing itself.
Yes, yes. So if we say that life is, or that we see many things the cup, the table, the chair, then that's not precise.
Because so many moments mixed up, not just one as precisely as it is. Seeing is seeing, thinking is thinking, memory is memory, like is like. See, nimitta is nimitta. Each word is precise in itself. To note it cannot be other thing.
Yes. When in the sutras we read about, I think there was a sutra about that we should listen to Dharma, not people. What should we understand by that?
It's the people.
No, I suppose ultimately it's the sound and the meaning of the words are realities.
This
Okay.
is the precision of all realities. More and more precise to understand each one as different ones. Never be the same at all.
Yes, yes.
No self, no thing. Is it precise?
Yes.
So all depends on understanding.
Yes, and so those two go hand in hand, precision and understanding.
Yes.
Yes.
Without understanding, can it be precisely understood as it is?
No, no. There has to be very careful consideration. Otherwise, it will be imprecise, vague, and that cannot condition the precise understanding of reality.
Hi,
And somewhere in,
Leanne.
I was just going to say, Sarah, that somewhere in the text too, Alison, excuse me, Alan, the Buddha describes himself, the Buddha describes himself as a Vibhajyawadan, someone who speaks about the doctrine of analysis. And that's what the whole Dhamma is about. In many ways, you could translate that word as precision, but it literally means the cutting up or the dividing up of the different Dhammas into different realities.
Okay, yeah, that's useful. Thank you.
Hence, we have the Vibhanga, the book of analysis.
I wonder if we can say that precision is the function of Panya.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Sukhin. Tamajankup, how would you describe that?
Because if it's not cut up, how can it appear as it is? Precisely, clearly. That which is seen is not that which sees.
I'm just reaching out to Leanne and Tam. Leanne, you thought that perhaps the second part of Tam's question wasn't answered. Would you just mention what it was?
Hi,
Hi, Leanne.
I am Hannah John and everyone. Sarah, what I remember was she mentioned about the practice, something about practice, and I haven't heard anyone address that yet.
Let me ask Tam. Tam, are you still there? What do you mean by practice?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah, so I have a question regarding the practice, like before the full understanding could be developed, or like the experience of anatta. For me, someone like me, of course, I still experience the atta. So how to is it important or is it necessary to understand the atta or to recognize the atta before the anatta could be understood?
I'd just like to welcome you to the group and come in to discuss what you've just been asking, because I think it's an interesting question. Now, you talk about experiencing the atta, and I know what you mean, because we all have the idea of there being a self, but there is no actual experiencing of the atta because the atta doesn't exist. So we can't experience something that doesn't exist. And a lot of your questions turn around, what is the atta that is experienced? Is it a mental factor and so forth? So it might help to keep in mind that the idea of a self is all that there is. It's an idea, a wrong idea, but it's a notion that we have. We've accumulated tendency to believe in the reality of a self, but it's a wrong belief, a wrong idea. And so it's just another moment of thinking. When there's an idea of experiencing the atta, as you put it, the reality of that moment is just thinking about the atta, thinking there is a self, having an idea of me, of I, that exists as something permanent and lasting. So that's why in these discussions, we talk a lot about the different realities that may be appearing at the present moment, such as seeing and hearing, the objects of seeing, visible object, and the object of hearing, sound. And we come to understand, and also, of course, then there's thinking about what has been seen and heard. And the thinking is also a reality. But the object of the thinking, in every case, is never a reality. So when we think of a table, a chair, a person, it's a concept, and that is not real. And it's the same with the idea of the self. But we have to come to see the idea of a self will be there as long as there is no understanding that what is real at the moment are just momentary realities which arise and fall away. And that is the understanding that the Buddha told his listeners, or said needed to be developed.
So we can spend our whole life looking for the atta, to understand the atta, but because it's just a fantasy, it will never be found. So this is why the Buddha said one can travel all around the world, but the world is actually just these different realities, the seeing, the visible object, the hearing, the sound, the different realities to be understood here and now. And it's only through the understanding of these realities that it can be known that the atta is a fantasy that will never ever be found. So there is no I that can experience an atta, because there is no I and there's no atta to be experienced. And the question about how to already suggests I can do something, but there's no I that can do anything. So it's only through the careful consideration about the realities we've been discussing, like the seeing now, what is seen now, no one who can see, no thing, no rose that is seen, that gradually the idea of self will be let go of slowly, but not by a self, by the development of understanding. So it always has to come back to this moment, but not by I doing anything. That's why I asked what you meant by practice, because there's no I to practice, no I to do anything. There are just different realities in life arising and falling away by conditions. And it's very deep and very subtle, as you said.
And
I thought you were on the right track earlier when you asked initially that this sense of self that you seem to be experiencing, is that a mental factor? You asked something along those lines, right? Yeah. So actually, you were there. You were asking the right question, because that sense of self is conditioned by a mental reality, a mental factor, which is called wrong understanding. So that's another reality to be known, and it can be known. So, but it's not, there's no rule about whether that needs to be known before anything else, but it's just by conditions. Anything can be the object of right understanding.
Thank you all for your teaching. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
I asked something about DT, because now we talk about DT. So when talking about the idea of self, you can see that there is the fantasy of someone there or something there, and there's the clinging to that fantasy. And at that moment, we say that the idea of self is there. And when, for example, having the wrong idea that there's no karma and no result of karma, so the DT is said to be there as well. So I'm just wondering what is the reality of DT. So I would like to hear all your comments and Ajahn comments on this point. Thank you.
I think this is a great question to consider, because the reality of ditthi, as I understand it, is the wrong understanding. So, and wrong understanding, it talks about having a wrong conviction about things. So it's not the same as just a wrong idea. It has to be a belief at some level of the way things are. And so any belief about the way things are that is not in accordance with the way things are is a wrong view. And wrong view is the general term, and wrong view of self and belief in no result of bad deeds and this sort of thing are specific instances of wrong view. But they all have the same characteristic, and that is the same essence, and that is they are an idea of how things are in reality, which is incorrect.
John, isn't wrong view also a Jetasika, Justice?
What do you mean also a Jetasika? It's only a Jetasika.
It is a Jetasika.
Right.
So, so there can be different wrong ideas, but what is the DT is the conviction of the belief that that idea is true, right? on those,
Yes.
something like that.
For example, the idea that 2 + 2 = 5 is not wrong because it's not a view about the way things are in reality.
And Tom,
Or even the idea that the sun, the earth goes around the sun rather than the sun around the earth. That's not wrong view either, because it doesn't pertain to the reality of the present moment.
Tom, I thought you were asking, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you were asking that because we talk a lot about idea of self, and so you were wondering when it's a matter of mistaking kusla for akusla or akusla for kusla, that seems to be different from the idea of self. So why we say that both are instances of wrong understanding? Is that the question?
No, I think that my question was actually what John just addressed. I was wondering about what DT is precisely, but yeah, I think there are so many aspects to understand further about DT, and all would be interesting to investigate further.
Just to take that a bit further, not every instance of a thought of I is wrong view, because a lot of it is just the normal label we use to refer to one individual versus another. For example, every time if I say, may I ask a question, that I is just a part of the way of speaking, manner of addressing. So there's no necessary thought given at that moment to whether there's an I in existence or not. So it's a question of, again, the characteristic of the mental state rather than the situation or the words used.
Thank you, John.
And as we know, if there's no utter ditthi, no idea of, no sakaya ditthi, no idea of self here, no sense of self, no other wrong views. So all the other wrong views about no karma, no result, and so on, all other wrong views stem from the wrong clinging to the idea of sense of self or something. So it has to be understood. It has to be understood that there are only dharmas which arise by conditions, and the different conditioned nature of different realities has to be understood in order to eradicate that sense of self.
So, Sarah, what you're saying is that if there's no understanding of dharmas, then invariably there's the wrong idea of self. So from that comes all the other wrong ideas about
wrong ideas about cause and result, and about wrong ideas about what karma is or no karma, all other death, all other wrong ideas come from the sense of self, the sakaya ditthi. If there's the idea of self here, there's the idea of other people, other things there, everything, all wrong ideas come from this clinging to the idea of me or the sense of self here.
So that means that there is still the accumulated tendency of wrong view. It doesn't mean that it's appearing just because there's no understanding of the reality of the present moment.
And Tom, I would add to that ditthi is to view wrongly the nature of Dhamma as it truly is. And of course, we can extrapolate into all sorts of areas on that, but it essentially is a wrong seeing or a wrong viewing of the nature of Dhamma And, you know, you mentioned there about, or I think it may have been you or somebody else talking about, you know, no belief in cause and effect. It goes to all sorts of other beliefs that it doesn't matter. You know, mother and father are just the same as everybody else, and all these sort of things. This is a viewing wrongly the nature of Dhamma.
And as we've often discussed, the asava, the very subtle clinging to self, arises so quickly, completely unknown, so very common in a day. Only the Sotapanna has no more sense of self, no more wrong idea of self at all. It's just about time. Ajahn, would you like to add anything before we finish today?
And just very briefly, Tambaka, is that we also obviously from that we have Ditthi Vipalasa, which is the you know, perverse view that there is something. So I think we can look at Ditthi in many ways, the ways that Jonathan mentioned, which I think are good examples, not just those conventional ideas that 2 and 2 equals whatever. They're just different ways of thinking. There's nothing to do with the nature of Dhamma as it is.
I mean, in those cases, maybe Chitta and Sanya Vipalasa, but not Ditthi Vipalasa. I think that's what John was trying to point out.
Okay, maybe we'll finish
Ajahn
it.
Cup, just Ajahn Cup, perhaps you know, we would appreciate you to talk to the nature of Ditthi just briefly, if you could. Thank you very much.
Perhaps we'll continue next time.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Ajahn Saltika and everyone.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Very much.
ท่านอาจารย์ค่ะอนุโมทนาค่ะคุณสราคุณจอม
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to see you.
And everyone. Thanks for joining us, Tam Chao.
Thank you, John, Sarah.
Bye, everyone.
See you all next week.
You.
Thank you. Thank you.